So initially, when I submitted the request, I got completely ignored, which they already know my name at the field office. So it was weeks went by. Finally, I was talking to Sophia. I was like, hey, they're not responding. I've been sending emails about the request, and so they stepped in and did send them a very strong legal letter, like, hey, this is, our right. It is our legal right to have to be allowed in as a community, right, as a stakeholder tour. And if you don't grant this, well, then we're just going to take further action. So they immediately responded, the field director, Contreras. And so, yeah, he got the ball rolling. I don't know how much do I want to talk.
So I would just say, this is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
So
right.
we know that they have control.
Yeah.
ICE has control. They can do whatever they want. They can set the rules and the parameters based on the very, very basics that is outlined by the laws in Congress, or the laws from DHS, from the Department of Homeland Security. So any little infraction, any little reason they can come up, it's kind of like if you work in an at-will state or a right-to-work state, you're basically at will to be fired. You're right to work to be fired. So they are at will to basically decide whether or not we can have this program there. So if for example, Sandra shows up or I show up and they don't like the way we're dressed or they don't like our hair, they can say that that's something that is going to be interfering with the operations of the center. And if you go to these centers, on the wall for visitors, they have big signs with this long list of requirements for you to be able to go into the facility. Dress, for example. One of the things that we had talked about when we first started this sort of idea of going inside was about solidarity campaigns on the outside for the families. So Sandra had realized or had heard that some people were coming to visit family members from miles away for, this would be the only time they could see them in weeks or months, and they would get denied because their clothing didn't match the dress code of the facility. So we had talked about having outside the facilities clothes. So in case people got denied, they could then change and say, hey, I'm compliant now, let me in. So we, of course, as Sandra says, don't know how much we want to go into it really because, they may very well pick up on what we say and then say, we heard what you said, therefore we saw that you are hostile to us and we will simply deny you because we have been there.
And they can deny you, but when you put, I think this is the point. So, yeah, they totally, push back and say no and block you. But when you go in with the legalities of, hey, look, let's actually look at what's in the ICE National Directive, then, they're like, oh, okay, well. But, yeah, they stall you and...
So basically, when you come in educated with the legal resources and the stuff in your hands and coming up and being like, okay, so I'm going to take 20 minutes to go over why I can and should be in here.
Yeah.
Do you have to do that every single time?
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of what happened with this stakeholder tour that we have coming up on Monday, and then the following Monday we'll see. So the agent kept saying, I'm not getting the documents. And I'm like, well, I have, so we had to actually get everyone involved. I CC'd the field office director, compliance, community relations, civil rights and civil liberties office. Ended up tagging everyone because I'm like, look, we're submitting the documents and this person is still saying that they're not getting anything. And I'm like, I have the receipts, I can show them to you. And then another one of the issues is they were saying that we have to use a specific stakeholder tour flyer, but it's only in English. So that was another area where I had to push back, hey, look, so let's actually look at the national standards, and the whole supposed goal of ICE is to make sure that we're communicating, everyone's communicating freely back and forth. And so I was like, so y'all are actually kind of in violation of that because you're not using bilingual flyers. So how are people going to know that we're going? So there was a lot of back and forth, and finally we did win. they did grant us a stakeholder tour because the decision had been made to cancel our tour. And so, yeah, after a bunch of legality stuff, and then Freedom for Immigrants actually stepped in too, which was a huge help. Yeah, so then they were like, oh, okay, well, we will do the tour. But now we can only do half of the people instead of the whole 18. So, yeah. It's always something, like always. But I do feel like as long as people stay at it and it's like, look, this is how you're in violation, and technically, as powerful as they try to act, they're not that powerful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And think about it, we're a group with these resources and experiences behind us. How much more difficult it is for individuals, for family members who are trying to visit loved ones behind them. And it's just multiplied by a number of people who are lost. They just have to accept whatever ICE tells them, and then they're denied. We have been going back, we have been persistent, and like you said, even though we may have the law on our side, we have to appeal at each level because each department may say, well, this is in violation, this is in violation, this is in violation. That's a delay that we then have to go back, research, come back to them and say we were in the right, and then we can get in. Other people, ordinary people, family members, they may not have those resources, especially if they themselves are undocumented. They don't want to cause trouble.
No,
so
yeah,
this makes
definitely
something
not.
happen. So, and I guess you could say in a way that we're utilizing our privileges as citizens or as people who have maybe access to resources, they can push these issues.
Well, yeah, there's a number of privileges at play, right? So, like, for some people, like in the group, there's white privilege, there's class privilege, right? And then there's also the privilege of just speaking English, like, and not sounding like you're speaking a second language. There's a lot of privilege in that. So, yeah, no, I get what you're saying with that.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.